G'day guys, Adam and Emma here from Wellbeing. What we're going to do today is go through hip flexor stretch. A lot of people suffer lower back pain and most people think it's actually from their back, but a lot of times it can be from the hip flexor itself being tight. There's two main hip flexor muscles, the psoas and iliacus they're called. The psoas attaches to our spine, which in turn when it's tight pulls forward on the spine and actually gives lower back pain. But like I said before, it is commonly thought of as lower back pain. Emma's going to take me through a bit of a stretch and show you guys how to do it best.
We're going to firstly go through one that a lot of people do, but we sort of recommend against, and then we'll show you one that we sort of go with here in the clinic that we think is a little more effective to actually target the hip flexor muscles and reduce a bit of back pain. So we're going to get ads kneeling on the floor, and if you guys are going to do this, probably best if you've got something next to you to hold on, just takes your balance component out of it. The first thing we see a lot of people do when they want to stretch the front of the hip is come to this kneeling position and then lean right forward like Ads is doing there. Couple of things why we don't recommend this. Firstly, we find it often gives more of a stretch through the quad muscles than it does the actual hip flexors because you're sort of in that position. The second thing we find is that it often closes the joints at the lower part of your spine because you're extending back. We're giving this stretch to people all the time with back pain, and sometimes this can just make that feeling worse. So what we sort of say is we cue the stacking of your shoulders on your hips, on your knee, all in a straight line, and you actually keep that position there. Now what Ads is going to do is think of his hips as a bucket of water, and he's going to try and tip the water out the back of the bucket. So the best way for him to maybe think about that is by taking his belt buckle and lifting that towards the ceiling, or if he had a tail on the back of him, he's wanting to imagine tucking that between his legs. So that big tuck there puts the hip flexors on stretch to start with. To then increase that, we're going to get Ads to really squeeze his left glute muscle. That drives the hip forward in the socket a little bit more and gives that stretch. You've got to hold this for roughly a minute. You kind of can't do 15 seconds and give up, but this is the position that we recommend to get a true hip flexor stretch, not just a quad stretch or jamming through the low back.
You should feel that stretch come down about a third of the way down your thigh and no further. If you do that, you know you're truly into a hip flexor stretch as well.
One way we then go, if this isn't enough for you, down the track it's not giving you enough of a stretch, you can increase it a little bit by bringing in a ball or on the back of a seat or a couch or something. What Ads is doing here is the exact same position as before. Shoulder, hip and knee are all stacked. We've just put this knee in a little bit more flexion, so a little bit more bend heel towards his bottom, and that can increase the stretch by putting the quad muscle on stretch as well. So yeah, and a progression for you if you find the first one isn't enough. And exactly the same principles of that pelvic tuck and a squeeze through his glute on this left side. That's it.
Thanks guys, hope that helped. Get in touch for this and many, many more. Talk soon.